So, welcome to the Work Life Rocks virtual series. Today's topic is remote work considerations and caregiving. So, here at the University of Kentucky, we are all about supporting our employees as they are managing their work and life responsibilities. So, with this series, we're talking about Work Life Rocks. And in this series, we're focusing on resilience, optimism, compassion, self care, knowledge, and self care. So in today's workshop, we're going to be focusing on some tips for effectively working remotely, also caregiver considerations, challenges and solutions, as well as re-emphasizing the importance of managing your self-care. This little quote reminds us of that by saying, you can do anything, you just can't do everything. So when you think about remote work considerations and caregiving, I love this quote as well. It says, caregiving often calls us to lean into love we didn't know possible. So leaning into love you didn't know possible. So let's start with talking about remote work at UK. So here's some ways to think about remote work. First of all, it's usually working at home or someplace other than an office. A remote worker can be working either full-time or partially in a remote setting. We also are maintaining a regular routine, so regular work schedule. You're going to be communicating regularly with your supervisor and your colleagues. You're going to use technology to your advantage. So for example, you may be using technology for meetings, to work on projects, to share documents, things like that. So you're using technology to your advantage. You also have the same expectations in a remote work as you would if you were in an office setting. Also, you expected to be prepared for all virtual meetings and arrive to those meetings on time. And so by being prepared, you mean, come with notes or documents or information that you may need to share with that particular meeting. And then, of course, look professional in a virtual setting. That's important as well. And also complete your tasks and projects and any work in a timely manner. You're also going to be expected to present and be present and contribute to your team and support your team or support your department, whether you're working in the office or outside the office. That be present part, one way to think about that too is you're expected to engage, to participate in activities, to share your opinions, to share your input and your insight. So we don't want remote workers to feel like they are different or they are away, so therefore we're not expecting them to, or we don't want them to contribute just as much. We really do. We want to hear from you as well. You're still a valued member of the team, whether you're in the office or working from home. Here's what remote work is not. It's not a reason not to work. So it's not, I'm at home and I'm working remotely, but I'm going to do other things instead of the work I'm supposed to be doing. So we absolutely expect you to work on the projects and so forth that you have during your working time. We also expect you to continue to collaborate if that's a part of your job. Continue to follow through, follow up on any projects and assignments that you are working on. We also expect you to attend meetings. So just because you're working remotely doesn't mean that you're not expected to attend meetings. Usually meetings will have a remote option, a way to join. And if they don't, they may have a call-in or a virtual option. And then also work-related activities, meet deadlines. So that's just something to keep in mind. Basically, when you're working remotely, you are definitely in a different location and you do have some unique challenges that could potentially come up because of that, but we are anticipating and expecting you to work just like you would or have similar expectations and contribute to the team. And it can definitely be a win-win situation. So there's different reasons why a person might work remotely. It may be something that they themselves said, I want to do this, or maybe something even the department asked if they want to do it. But no matter what reason you're doing, it can be a win-win. So tips for working effectively in a remote setting. First of all, you want to create a consistent routine and a workable schedule. So that consistent routine is, if you normally work 8 to 5, for example, then you're working 8 to 5 typically. And I say consistent because let's just say that's not your schedule. Maybe your schedule is 7 to 4, or it's you have block schedules. Maybe you're working from 8 to 12, and then you take a 2-hour break and you pick it up from there. Whatever your schedule is, you want to try to get into a routine. It's helpful, and it's also less stressful, and it's also helpful for your team to know when to expect you. And when you are available, it's easier. And then also a workable schedule. That just basically means that's back to the schedule that makes sense for you. Of course, getting that approved with your supervisor, making sure your team knows what to expect. That's important. And then, of course, you got to consider there's going to be, when you're working remotely, if you have others in the home with you, there's going to probably be some disruptions, some distractions, but that's okay. Just have a plan for working around that and just do the best you can. And if you find that you're having more distractions than anticipated, there may be a time to have a conversation with your supervisor about potentially adjusting your projects or adjusting your schedule. Have clear expectations and good communications. Make sure everyone knows your schedule. That's the people that live with you, if people live with you. If you live by yourself, then no big deal. And then making sure your colleagues and anyone else that you work with collaboratively, make sure they know your availability. One way to do that may be to share Outlook calendars, or if you're using a Google Calendar or whatever kind of calendar you're using, you may consider sharing that calendar so that people can see when you're available. And then also, of course, stay organized and be flexible. Dedicate a workspace. That's very helpful. And also dedicate work supplies. So when you have a workspace with supplies all together, that helps you to be more effective, more efficient in your work. Determine how to collaborate and what makes sense when it comes to collaborating and how you can contribute. And that may mean that you send some things ahead of time. It may mean you share documents, whatever makes sense for you. Consider your capacity and your prioritizations. It may be necessary to reprioritize some tasks or some projects, just based on what you have going on and if you're collaborating with others. And of course, continue to use technology, managing projects. Follow through is always important. And if there's a reason you can't follow through, like you're working remotely and maybe you've had a distraction that has popped up in your day that has slowed you down, or in your week, or maybe you've gotten pulled into a different project or some other priority, it's okay to just communicate that with others that may be depending on you for a project or some information. Let them know when you can deliver. And then, of course, consider quality over quantity. Sometimes when you're in a remote setting, you may feel like you need to prove that you're doing work. You may even feel that more so than a person that's working on site. But keep in mind the quality of the work that you do is going to be really important, and that's going to show volumes for how you're contributing to the team. And then know yourself and know your limits. Super important. Know when, for example, that self-care piece, know what's too much. Know when you're kind of hitting a wall and you may need a break. Just kind of be monitoring your own self and then communicate that. So when you think about working and caregiving, I like this little message here. It says, caring, always there, ready to give their all, encouraging, gracious, incredible, valuable, exceptional, and respectable. So when you think about caregiving considerations, what support do you need as a caregiver? This is something that we all have to ask ourselves. If we're a caregiver, what support do we need? And that may mean you need time, you need an adjusted schedule, you need to work a half day on certain days, or you just need some flexibility. What do you need? Just think about it. And that might change from day to day or week to week, and that's okay. But just do think about very strategically, like, what is it that I need? Are there resources that you need? Do you need an additional, for example, some documents from your office? You need access to different tools that will help you work more effectively virtually. I mean, just think about, what do you need? And then have you communicated that? And then when you consider elder care and child care, it may be tough to maintain boundaries. That could be just boundaries with, if you have others in the home with you, or if you're having to leave the home and go do different, tend to others' needs out in the middle of your so-called work time. That's something to think about. in this, it can be a little challenging to set those boundaries, but try to do it just the same. You may even find that you feel a little resentful. You may feel angry, a little isolated. You may even feel tempted to complain a lot. You may even want to give up, because you may be feeling like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I am providing care and I'm maybe working remotely, several days a week or one day a week, or all the time. And I'm just trying my best to balance it all and trying to make it all make sense and get my work done. So I encourage you not to give up. There's some wonderful resources that can assist you. And sometimes you may just need to take a break. You may just need to take a day off. You may need to take a half a day off. Whatever the case may be, you may want to think about some self-care things that you can do for yourself. We highly recommend self-care every day, all day. Think about little things you can do all day long to take care of yourself, to encourage yourself, and do it. And actually put these things on your calendar. Because believe me, if you don't put the things on your calendar, you will miss it. You'll say, oh no, I really meant to go to that presentation, or I meant to go for that walk, or what have you. So just really use your devices and technology to help you. All right. So challenges for working caregivers. Again, there could potentially be different challenges, and all of these challenges won't apply to everyone. There may be one or two that you think, yes, that could be me, or I've noticed that about myself, or that used to be a concern for me, but not anymore. So think about, you may have trouble balancing work and caregiving responsibilities. You may be thinking about time lost from work. Maybe you have to cut your hours because you just need to, and maybe your department has decided they're okay with that. So, and you may be considering, okay, loss of income because of that. Lower productivity, you may feel like you're not getting as much done as you used to, and that may be accurate, but you may also need to rethink how you think about how you think about that. um, and maybe is prioritizing, are you getting the main things done, in a timely manner, and are some of these other things that can wait or be reprioritized to be done later. So sometimes it's just thinking about it differently. Where you may feel like it's lower productivity, I'm not doing as much as I used to. You may not be, but are you getting the main things done? And then lost career opportunities, lower future earnings. You may be feeling that that's a potential possibility. Lost in tenure and seniority due to job changes, feeling isolated from colleagues, or even embarrassed about sharing personal details. Maybe you don't want to share what's happening with you. You may just need to share a little bit, and you're not obligated to share all the details either. Just share enough so that your supervisor can support you and your colleagues can support you. And then also some challenges, and this is not only if you're a caregiver, this is just in general. You may just be caring for yourself and still be dealing with a lot of stress, or even some depression or sleeplessness or physical illness. So productivity, be aware of the comparison trap. I really like to focus on this for a couple of seconds. Comparison trap, that's where you may be looking at a colleague and how much they're getting done, or there's maybe very little in their world besides maybe they're working remotely now, and they may be seemingly doing all the same work in the same time frame. So please don't compare if you have children at home, for example, and you're trying to balance that and get your work done. Just let yourself know and give yourself permission that this is a different season and I'm doing things differently and there's different expectations. And so I'm just going to have to make some adjustments, and it's okay. Deal with your feelings that you may have. Again, if you're feeling a little tired or resentful or isolated or whatever these feelings are, there's some wonderful therapists in the Office of Work Life that are happy to assist you and help you and meet with you. And to go see a therapist, it doesn't mean that, it just may mean you need to talk to someone. Maybe you have family and friends that you can talk to, but maybe you just want to talk to someone else. That can be, an outside person that can just listen to you and give you some suggestions and just hear you. So that's okay. Also, be proactive and share challenges. Be accountable. Absenteeism. That is something that all employers are concerned about. They know that there are some people that are providing care, and that may make a person be absent because they have to take time off to do some things, or you yourself may feel like, I'm not being as productive, so I should just take some time off. Again, talk to your supervisor about what's going on with you, and I'm sure they'd be willing to work with you. Workday interruptions, hiring, increased healthcare cost, and less efficiency in the day-to-day. We've been chatting about that a bit. So this little quote says, healthy caregivers make better caregivers. So take care of yourself. So here's some solutions. Can't say this enough. Share your needs with your supervisor and your peers. Approach them with possible solutions. So it's not enough to just go and say, I have this going on, but also think a little bit before you approach them and say, here's some possibilities, here's some solutions, here's some things I recommend. And then, of course, we want to consider the flexible work options. If you're doing remote work and that's working for you, fantastic. You may be doing remote work, but you may also need to adjust your hours. You know, maybe the 8 to 5 is not working for you in a remote, but you need to do some block scheduling. So just, consider that and talk to your supervisor about that. And it may be that you don't need that all the time. It may be you need it a couple of days a week. Maybe you need it a particular week. So think about that. Compressing your work week, that's another option. And then also know about helpful resources. So, know about the resources, for example, offered in wellness and in work life and in our benefits office and other places on campus, and utilize them. And then empower yourself. When you empower yourself, that's dealing with your feelings, that's maintaining that self-care, creating healthy boundaries for your work and yourself. That's also asking for help and accepting the help. Because sometimes we are hesitant to ask for help, but if you need to ask. And it may be, again, temporary help for this moment. It may be this particular week or this particular day, and then you're okay after that. Or it may be intermittent times when you may need help. But be okay with asking for help and letting people know specifically how they can help you. Give them some examples, and then also accept the help. That's a big one. So we talked about, so this is kind of to summarize what we've talked about thus far. And as we kind of walk away from our presentation today, we get to think again, okay, how am I going to balance my caregiving and my remote work? And make sure that you can kind of check these boxes and then see if there are one or two things that you want to take away that are helpful for you to move forward and create an action plan for. So one, of course, is establish a daily schedule and maintain a routine. Set clear expectations and boundaries. Focus on your most important work and accept that you can't do it all, and it's okay. Use your resources, your technology resources and other resources. Also, let go of normal. If you're saying, well, this isn't normal, I can't wait to get to normal, or any of those kinds of commentary, you may want to let go of that and just go, what's going to work for me right now? Let me focus on that. Because sometimes we may put undue stress on ourselves because we're trying to get to normal. But just say, what can I do that's going to help me right now? And let me get that established. Be realistic about what you can do. There's only so many work hours in the day, and it's okay to stop working at a reasonable time. It's okay not to answer emails later in the evening. So be realistic about what you can do and set some boundaries and some balance for yourself, for your mental health, if nothing else. Create realistic timelines, be flexible. Also, communicate what you need. Again, I've been saying that throughout this presentation. You cannot do that enough. And it's okay if your needs are changing from week to week or even day to day sometimes. And also have patience with yourself and compassion and grace with yourself. And then figure out what self-care means for you. It's different for different people. There's some little things you can do. There's some big things you can do. Examples of big things would be, like going for a run or participating in a 5K, or, something like going to a salon or going someplace to get a massage, or, getting your hair done or cut. In some ways, those could be sort of big things. But really small things could be just taking a stretch every hour, or taking 2 walks a day, take a morning walk or afternoon walk, or, just reading for 15, 20 minutes just to kind of pull back for a moment. Figuring out, thinking about what self-care means for you. Do you like music? What kind of music energizes you? What kind of music keeps you focused? just investigate some things. And it's okay to eliminate things that don't work, or certain things work at certain times and other things work at other times. It's okay. And keep in mind, self-care is not selfish. Self-care is just taking care of you. All right. And at the end of the day, know that we believe that you are amazing and you can do anything you put your mind to, and we are here to support you. So to keep in mind that the Office of Work Life is here to support our employees. We're here to help you as you are trying to maintain your work and your life responsibilities. And we know that everyone needs different things, and that is perfectly fine. Just know we're here to support you.